Ever since I was a kid and I first seen Ark the Lad sitting on a store shelf, I've had an interest in this series. Granted, at the time I thought Ark was the name of the main character, and that the title was implying he was just a real top lad, but that didn't dissuade me in the slightest. What did dissuade me, however, was money. I was a kid, of course I had no money, I didn't have a job. But as I got older, the name of this series stuck in the back of my head, and my curiosity never really died. A couple years back, I finally acquired an entry in the series. I acquired Ark the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits at a flea market. In typical me fashion, this is my first experience with Ark the Lad, and as it stands, it appears to be the 7th release in the series. Some of those other releases are compilations, but still, 7 releases in, and only 2 games that post-date the release of this one, and this is where I start? It wouldn't be Tarks Gauntlet if we were gonna do this any other way. So let's jump into this lifelong curiosity of mine, and see if it was worth the wait. And let's also see that if starting where I did was a huge mistake or not. First, let's look back a bit on the story of Ark the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits. The game initially opens with a small compilation of expository shots. I'm immediately struck by the color palette on display. Everything looks so rich and vibrant, even if some of the character designs are riffing a little too hard on what Final Fantasy set up around the time. In these opening shots alone, we get a cool little slice of what this world is like. From the color to the vegetation, the little bits of architecture, this traditional fantasy instrument being played. Really, it's a strong and intriguing little montage of events to draw us in. When we actually begin the game, we're in a cozy and quaint, rustic little traditional JRPG village. We meet our main character Karg, who, maybe through a bit of lazy exposition, has a wealth of his history divulged to us. Karg is a descendant of a royal line that used to preside over the land before a monarchy rule was abolished in favor of democracy. Despite the monarchy being abolished, many people in this town still cherish the royal family, as the royal family's surviving matriarch is something of a Mother Teresa type character. A warm, gentle, and caring woman who believes in the goodness of people, no matter what walk of life they hail from. Karg differs from his mother in many ways, and finds himself often frustrated by her unwillingness to tell Karg of her past and of his father. This frustration exposes Karg's insecurities and drives him towards more radical actions than his mother would ever approve of. Actions that show themselves strongly in his hatred for different forms of sentient creatures. Which brings up one of this game's cornerstone social statements about race and race relations. Long ago in this world, humans and monsters, known as Deimos, used to live together. However, animosity grew between the two until they fought on such a large scale that they segregated themselves from each other and forbid either one to walk in the other's territory. After Deimos once again find their way into Karg's village, Karg vows to hunt down the Deimos and kill every last one of them. Yet Ark the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits doesn't paint the Deimos as inherently bad, nor does it paint the humans this way. Instead, if we take what this game has to say and apply it to real life, it shows us that people, whether black, white, Asian, or Hispanic, Christian, Catholic, or Jedi, are just people. And people are fallible. It doesn't matter what crosses we bear, what labels we might apply to ourselves. One of the biggest things that we all, as sentient creatures, have in common is that we are all capable of being misled. At the worst of times, we fail to identify the flaws in our logic and our understanding. We jump to conclusions and to prejudice, and we commit heinous, senseless acts of violence and mistreatment to each other as a result. The value in this game comes from how it shows you both walks of life, and how misinformation, misunderstanding, and general stubbornness can push two forces that by all accounts shouldn't have a problem with each other to become mortal enemies and seek each other's complete and utter genocide. The game does this by giving us a secondary party of people to play as. This second party is made primarily of Deimos, the monsters in this world. Ark the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits plays out in chapters, and every time the chapters change, you switch to play as the opposite party and see the story from both perspectives. The second perspective is headed by a character named Dark. Dark is a black sheep, even in the world of the Deimos, as he appears more human than monster, a trait not looked upon fondly by other monsters. As an infant, Dark was found by a wretch of a Deimos woman, after his father was discovered dead and his mother was missing. This woman took Dark in and raised him, but she raised him as if a slave, abused physically, verbally, and mentally on a daily, if not hourly basis. Dark was made to feel grateful to her for saving his life, but the life he received under her and under her tutelage was not one many would consider to be worth living. Dark knew only one thing of his father, and that was that his father believed, or rather even instructed him, to save the Deimos. An instruction like that of course leaves a lot open to interpretation, but given the war Deimos and humans have against each other, this gets interpreted as saving the Deimos from the humans. Despite Dark's black sheep status, he sets out to become the strongest and therefore most respected Deimos, to build an army and overthrow the humans. But in this world, there's a lot more going on than just the events in Dark's hometown and Karg's hometown. Really, the lives our two main characters live are almost completely inoffensive to each other. Surely, nothing in Karg's quaint little town is worth Dark attacking, nor does Karg have a reason to attack Dark or his hometown. However, other forces are causing troubles throughout the land. Forces like the Dilsweld Empire, a very advanced human civilization encroaching on Deimos territory and killing with complete disregard for the value of Deimos life. Deimos with prejudiced inclinations see this and apply that action to be representative of humans as a whole, and as such they feel the validation needed to launch a full-on genocidal attack. The same sort of things are being misconstrued from the human side as well, and before we know it, our two main characters are out for each other's throats, and the throats of each other's entire species. The world of Ark the Lad is built with a surprising amount of depth. Though towns are sparse, NPC dialogue provides great lore and a feel for the towns you're exploring. The NPC dialogue is swapped out constantly, and it really makes things feel alive and evolving as the story progresses. Though towns aren't large, there's definitely a lot to see in them. Even just going to the beach in this town here is a trip. Whether you spend your time talking to a man who hates foreigners, or chasing this dog around from one tree to the next and watching him pee, there's lots to take in. The world even has a deep and flawed political system that bleeds into little bits of the story all over the place. But it comes with a bit of a caveat that might rub some people the wrong way. There are times when you talk to politicians that it seems new plot threads are being introduced. Plot threads that don't ever get properly resolved. But I personally can look past this when I apply what it means to our real world. Our political system was broken before I was born, and it'll be broken for long after I'm dead. Politics are driven almost entirely by human intuition, and as we discussed earlier, humans are fallible. There's no cure for that, just ways to better ourselves as individuals. Even if this absence of finality here was accidental, I kinda feel a strong value in what it says. If the politics of the world and how it affects the stories from multiple perspectives wasn't enough, we also have another intertwined subplot about elemental spirits reawakening to guide the fates of our main characters. At any given time, you can expect there's at least 5 or 6 different parties with their own history and motives playing into the events of the story. And though it can be hard to keep track of entirely, it certainly is something of wonder. Ark the Lad in a way reminds me of the Legend of Heroes series, or even a bit like Vagrant Story in just how much effort they put into building their world without making it a direct focus of the story itself. In terms of the story, I got way more than I was bargaining for, although I do have to complain just a little bit about some of the dialogue. While most of the character writing is fine, there's times where it slips into some really cringy melodrama, almost like George Lucas was writing the dialogue. I wrote this one down, and I'm gonna paraphrase it a little bit, and I don't want to show the scene because it is a little spoilery, but this was initially said by Bebedora. It reads, "Kindness is the light that shines on the darkness in my heart." Or, again, paraphrased a little bit, but it's something to that effect. So something like this seems more suited to something like Kingdom Hearts, or even brings that one scene from Devil May Cry to mind.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
This is a small price to pay, however, for all that this game gives you. Ark the Lad is loaded with challenging themes, at times dealing with prejudice and segregation, other times dealing with forbidden love, abuse, insecurity, questions of nature versus nurture, and even a bit of environmental and economic stuff thrown in to boot. It really is just a treat. I would even say the art design is a treat here. I love the way some of these creatures look, and on close-ups, I'm shocked at the amount of detail coming out of a PlayStation 2. That said, I kinda wish I was playing this on PS4 with a higher resolution so I could appreciate it just a bit more. Hell, maybe then I can discover a latent kink and become a self-loathing furry or monster girl lover, though I'm not quite ready for that plunge yet. In terms of combat, I gotta say this game isn't what I was expecting, but what I got, I did enjoy quite a bit. So let's take a look at that. So first off, let's discuss how combat occurs, because it's not exactly traditional. Combat primarily happens for story reasons until you reach about the halfway point of the game. Ark the Lad Twilight of the Spirits doesn't have much in the way of dungeons, so most of the random encounters you get will occur only when roaming around in this Final Fantasy Tactics styled overworld. It's only late into the game that you need to worry about random encounters while roaming around in dungeons. However, these encounters will only occur upon entering a new room, never while you're already in it. If you're lost in a dungeon and doing a bit of backtracking, this can become a source of frustration as battles are not short by any stretch of the imagination, but it's very rare that this becomes an issue. When battle does begin, you start with a prep screen. On this screen, you can select who will take part in the battle and who will sit out. You also get to select what items each character can take into battle. You can charge their spirit stones, the resource necessary to use special attacks, and you can buy new skills. You can also change what weapon parts and accessories they have equipped, which can also change the effects of a character's attack if equipped in the right order. Once you're finished prepping for battle, you're taken to the battle arena, which is usually an exact match of the area of the dungeon or location of the map your battle occurred on. The battle system is turn-based. On your turn, you can move around as far as your distant chart allows. You can use items, cast magic, or special moves at a cost for spirit stones, or you can just use your standard attacks. Every character has different weapons with different attack ranges and shapes, and these ranges are not tied to any sort of rigid grid system. So rotating your character with full 360-degree control to get that one small area that allows you to hit that one extra enemy keeps combat feeling strategic and rewarding. This isn't a particularly hard game, but finding new ways to end combat faster certainly feels good, and getting the most out of every attack is a marijuana cigarette worth injecting. If battle lasts long enough and you manage to charge this meter down here, you'll see an aura appear around your character indicating an opportunity for a joint attack. This is one of the strongest attacks in your arsenal, but it only works if the enemy you choose to attack with it is also in range of another of your party members' attacks. If I could change one thing about this combat system though, it would be how you level up and gain experience. During combat, you don't gain XP by the amount of enemies killed, but rather by the amount of moves taken and landed, whether those moves are attacks on enemies or heals on party members. This is done on a turn-by-turn basis. At the end of every move, you gain experience. Unfortunately, this makes leveling some characters really difficult compared to others. It's primarily the magic users who require resources for their attacks and healers who suffer. Most turns go by without a need to heal a party member. Attacking with healers does little to no damage and puts them in unnecessary danger. Danger of getting killed and losing out on even more experience for the rest of battle if you can't resurrect them. It's a bit of a vicious circle. By the time I cleared the game, my main characters were around level 30 to 32 after 49 hours of play. That was a decent level for the end encounter. However, my healers, whom I used just as often, were stuck around level 22 to 24. Though this experience system works fine for most party members, I feel the healers should have had more benefits or a different leveling system altogether. You get some special moves as the game goes along that can be called into battle like summons. These come at a great cost, and managing what these moves are is like a minigame all on its own. The humans get a ship that you'll need to upgrade, and the Deimos get a creature whom, like a Pokemon, needs to be raised and fed to unlock new moves with. Though the combat system isn't exactly huge and doesn't add many real new mechanics as it goes along, playing as two different parties at different times definitely stops it from getting boring. And although that was only a bit of a quick look at the combat, especially compared to all the time I gave to the story and the world and the characters, it's probably a good place to move on and look at some more of the technical aspects of this game. So let's jump into that and then move along to the concluding thoughts. As I said earlier, I think the game, despite its resolution, looks great, and it actually runs great too, and I've only seen one issue throughout my whole play. One freeze while trying to load a menu. The sound effects in the game are fine and about standard for the time, but the music? Oh boy, is this a mixed bag. Now hear me out on this, because I'm not saying any of the music is bad. I actually love nearly every track on this OST. I think it's fantastic, but it feels like it has a bit of an identity crisis, and that not all of this music belongs in this one game. For instance, some songs feel like an uplifting Disney tune. Other songs feel like they would fit in with some of the best horror movie scores. The soundtrack is great, but I can't deny I felt like they were being used maybe in the wrong game or at the wrong times, often to a distracting effect. Granted, it was a pleasant distraction because the music was so good, but I'm not sure being distracted by the music is something I could say is exactly a good thing. Control and animation is great, but characters have a habit of over-expressing their dialogue with exaggerated hand motions. I'd say this is a product of the time, but even for its time, this is a bit extra. The voice acting, like the music, is a mixed bag. But this time, it's not all great. Most of the voice acting is superb, as well it should be considering the voice acting cast. Jill Talley, Jennifer Hale, D. Bradley Baker, Steve Blum, who you may know from Transformers, or Cowboy Bebop, among many, many other things. You know, they all do a great job. But sometimes, some characters just feel like they're trying way too hard, or are a little miscast. So, I don't know, I think there's a lot to love here in this game, and despite feeling a few references to the older games in the series that I never played, I didn't actually feel like I was missing much at all. But I find myself really confused about one thing. Looking just at the Wikipedia page here, since this game released in 2003, there's only been 2 more games released in the 16 years following it. This game reviewed well, and I think it's pretty good, so what the hell happened? Though I personally never played the 2004 game Ark the Lad End of Darkness, I can see that it didn't review too favorably. Following that, the series sat in silence until 2018, when Ark the Lad R was released to mobile phones. It strikes me as odd that one poorly reviewed game was enough to kill the series for 14 years, and that the only sign of a revival it's getting is on a platform where it just won't be that cared for. Though my experience with the series is absolutely minuscule at best, if Twilight of the Spirits is a sign of the series' potential in any way, then it's a series that I'd love to see come back. Perhaps start with an HD port of the original trilogy, something similar to the Grandia collection, and see where we can go from there. I know that I, for one, am definitely looking forward to going back to where this all began, and finally playing the games that first got me curious. What I lack right now is a convenient way to do it, as I almost never see Ark the Lad games when I'm out game hunting. I know the series has been bounced around between a lot of hands, but come on. Somebody competent can take this and bring it back and turn it into something great for the modern age. I'm just kinda waiting for that to happen. My first trip into the series may have come at an odd time and at an odd installment, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised. From here, I would like nothing more than to continue digging through whatever bits of the series I can, if only to see if the others can stack up to this one, which I do really enjoy. But as it is right now, Ark the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits, is the only Ark the Lad that I own. So this is all that I can really say on the series. I hope you folks enjoyed looking back at Ark the Lad Twilight of the Spirits as much as I have. And if you happen to have this game sitting in your backlog, maybe unplayed for as long as I have, make the time for it. It definitely deserves the attention. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it useful at all, you know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you can. If you really like the content and you want episodes like this one early, consider supporting the show on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. As always, folks, thanks for watching.